What happens when a Rolex stops ticking? Not from a scratch, not from being out of fashion, but when it actually breaks. You see, a Rolex is built on the promise of precision and longevity, designed to perform year after year. But when a Rolex breaks, it's usually the result of complex and hidden problems. Understanding what goes wrong is only half the story. In this video, we'll break down what happens when a Rolex watch breaks by clearly separating the problems that lead to failure from the solutions that bring it back to life. A Rolex rarely breaks suddenly. Its first cracks appear silently, deep inside the movement. First of all, a Rolex almost never fails without warning. The earliest stage of failure begins quietly, deep within the movement, long before any visible damage appears on the case, bracelet or dial. As lubricants age and gradually lose their effectiveness, internal friction begins to increase between gears that were designed to move with near perfect efficiency. This resistance is subtle at first, barely noticeable in daily wear, and easily dismissed as normal variation. Externally, the watch continues to project perfection. The second hand still sweeps smoothly, the crown still winds, and the overall appearance remains unchanged. This outward perfection masks the growing internal stress, creating a false sense of security for the owner. Because the watch continues running, these early warning signs are often ignored or misunderstood. As this hidden resistance builds inside the movement, it doesn't stay invisible for long. Its effects soon begin to surface through the watch's most defining trait: precision. The moment a Rolex starts losing time, the movement is already under mechanical strain. As internal friction increases, accuracy becomes the first noticeable casualty. A Rolex that once held precise time begins to drift, losing seconds that gradually turn into minutes over days or weeks. Timekeeping becomes inconsistent, and the movement no longer operates with the extremely tight tolerances Rolex is known for maintaining. The balance wheel, responsible for regulating time, may no longer oscillate evenly. The escapement may struggle to release energy in a controlled and uniform manner. These irregularities introduce instability into the movement, forcing components to work harder to compensate for mechanical imbalance. Although the watch may still appear functional, it's now operating under continuous stress. This strain accelerates wear on critical parts that were designed to last decades, quietly shortening the lifespan of the movement with every passing tick. When precision starts to slip, it's a clear sign that the movement is under strain, and the next system to suffer is the watch's ability to store and sustain energy. A shrinking power reserve signals that the movement can no longer store energy efficiently. Following the loss of accuracy, the next problem often appears in a reduced power reserve. A Rolex that once ran effortlessly overnight may now stop after only a few hours off the wrist. This decline signals that the movement is no longer storing or distributing energy efficiently. Worn rotor bearings may prevent effective automatic winding. Contaminated oils increase resistance within the gear train, while a fatigued mainspring may struggle to hold tension. Although the watch still starts when manually wound, the stored energy dissipates far more quickly than intended. This creates an illusion of reliability. The watch appears responsive but lacks endurance. Internally, components are forced to compensate for inefficient energy flow, increasing stress and accelerating long-term damage throughout the movement. As energy efficiency declines and internal stress continues to rise, the movement reaches a tipping point where gradual problems give way to sudden failure. When a Rolex stops entirely, the damage has already been building for a long time. Eventually, accumulated stress leads to total failure. The second hand freezes and the watch stops entirely. For most owners, this is the defining moment when the Rolex is finally considered broken. The failure may feel sudden, but it's the result of prolonged internal deterioration. Common causes include a snapped mainspring, a broken balance staff, shock damage from an unnoticed impact, or severe magnetization disrupting the escapement's function. Regardless of the trigger, the movement can no longer sustain itself or maintain rhythm. At this stage, the watch enters a fragile condition. Any attempt to revive it through shaking or excessive winding risks worsening the damage, turning a repairable issue into a far more complex mechanical failure. While mechanical stress alone can stop a Rolex, external factors can silently accelerate the damage, none more destructive than water entering the case. But water damage becomes far worse when warning signs are ignored. Despite Rolex's reputation for water resistance, no seal lasts forever. Over time, gaskets age, crowns wear down, and pressure resistance gradually declines. When moisture enters the case, damage begins silently and aggressively. Water intrusion corrodes steel components from within, emulsifies lubricants, and compromises delicate parts of the movement. Even jewels designed to reduce friction can be affected. The watch may continue running temporarily, misleading the owner into believing the situation is under control. By the time symptoms become obvious, corrosion may already be widespread. Water damage is particularly severe because it can permanently destroy components that are difficult or impossible to replace, dramatically affecting long-term value. At this stage, the damage is already serious, but what often makes it worse is what happens next. Continued wear despite clear warning signs. Continuing to wear a damaged Rolex compounds failure with every passing hour. Once a malfunction begins, continued wear becomes a serious and often overlooked problem. Wearing a compromised Rolex allows friction to spread beyond the initial point of failure, affecting components that were previously unharmed. Corrosion can migrate through the movement, while broken or worn parts may grind against neighboring components. A single damaged wheel or spring can trigger a cascading chain reaction, compounding the severity of the failure with every hour of wear. What begins as a localized issue quickly becomes systemic. Continued use dramatically increases repair complexity, cost, and the risk of irreversible damage to the movement. Once the watch is finally taken off the wrist, the physical damage pauses, but a new challenge immediately emerges: deciding how the watch should be repaired. After failure, the biggest risk isn't damage, it's making the wrong repair decision. After removing the watch from the wrist, owners often face uncertainty about the next step. Choosing between an authorized Rolex service center and an independent watchmaker presents a significant dilemma, especially for vintage or collectible models. Authorized service centers prioritize performance and factory standards, often replacing worn parts without hesitation. Independent watchmakers may prioritize preservation, originality, and historical integrity. Each approach carries long-term consequences. Yet before any decision can truly be made, one critical question remains unanswered. What is actually happening inside the case? Until the case is opened, the real damage remains invisible. External inspection offers no insight into internal wear patterns, corrosion, or broken components concealed beneath the case back. Microscopic damage may exist even when outward symptoms appear minor. Years of stress, moisture exposure, or improper lubrication leaves traces only visible under magnification during a full inspection. This uncertainty creates hesitation and speculation. Even after the movement is exposed, the outcome still depends heavily on how carefully the repair process itself is handled. A poorly executed repair can be as damaging as the original failure. Improper or incomplete servicing introduces additional risk. Residual debris, degraded oils, or misaligned components can remain inside the movement, undermining performance even after repairs are attempted. Rush work or partial disassembly may temporarily restore function while leaving deeper issues unresolved. Over time, these hidden problems resurface, often more aggressively than before. And even when repairs appear complete, the final risk lies in what happens before the watch returns to the wrist. Without proper testing, restoration is only an assumption, not a certainty. Without comprehensive testing, a repaired Rolex may still suffer from subtle issues. Inaccurate timekeeping, unstable power reserve, or compromised water resistance can persist unnoticed. A watch that looks restored on the surface may fail under real-world conditions. Inconsistent regulation across positions or insufficient pressure testing undermines confidence and reliability. But before we move into the solutions, take a moment to hit like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content on your watch list. Now, if understanding what goes wrong inside a Rolex matters to you, the next part matters even more, because this is where failure turns into precision and damage turns into restoration. These problems may seem overwhelming, but none of them is irreversible. Each failure point inside a Rolex has a corresponding solution when addressed with the right knowledge and care. Catching problems early is the single most powerful form of prevention. Recognizing subtle performance changes early is the most effective way to prevent escalation. Addressing minor resistance or timing irregularities through routine servicing restores lubrication and reduces friction before wear spreads. Timely maintenance protects the movement's long-term mechanical integrity, preserving components designed to last generations. Once early warning signs are recognized, the next step is restoring the precision that defines the watch. Restoring accuracy relieves stress across the entire movement. Proper regulation restores accuracy by bringing the movement back within Rolex's strict tolerances. Balance oscillation and clean energy release reduce stress across the escapement and balance system. This precision-driven adjustment stabilizes performance and slows long-term mechanical wear. With accuracy stabilized, attention then shifts to restoring the movement's endurance and energy efficiency. Energy efficiency returns only through complete mechanical harmony. A complete movement service restores efficient energy storage and release. Worn components are repaired or replaced, lubricants refreshed, and the mainspring's performance optimized. The result is renewed endurance without forcing internal components to overwork. But when failure reaches its peak, restoration begins not with tools, but with restraint. Stopping use protects what can still be saved. Once the watch stops completely, removing it from use is critical. Proper handling prevents further mechanical damage and preserves repair potential during this vulnerable phase. Restraint becomes an essential part of responsible ownership. In cases where moisture is involved, time becomes the most critical factor in determining what can still be saved. Fast intervention can mean the difference between recovery and total loss. Immediate disassembly and drying halt corrosion before it spreads. Prompt inspection identifies compromised components and prevents irreversible internal destruction. Speed is the difference between recovery and permanent loss. Beyond technical intervention, responsible ownership plays a crucial role in preserving what remains intact. Sometimes, preservation begins by simply doing nothing. Removing the watch from the wrist and storing it safely prevents secondary damage. This pause protects unaffected components and stabilizes the movement until professional care begins. Responsible restraint preserves long-term value and repair viability. With the watch stabilized, the next decision shapes its long-term identity and value. The right repair path depends entirely on what the owner values most. Now, choosing between authorized service and independent restoration based on ownership priorities ensures alignment with long-term goals. Performance-focused owners benefit from factory precision, while preservation-focused owners retain originality and character. An informed decision shapes the watch's future identity. Regardless of the repair path chosen, true restoration begins only once speculation gives way to direct inspection. Opening the case replaces guesswork with mechanical truth. Opening the case replaces speculation with mechanical truth. Direct inspection allows precise identification of wear, corrosion, and failure points. This clarity guides accurate and efficient restoration planning. Diagnosis sets the direction, but craftsmanship determines the outcome. True restoration demands nothing less than complete precision. Thorough disassembly, ultrasonic cleaning, and precise lubrication restore internal harmony. Careful reassembly ensures each component functions exactly as intended. This level of craftsmanship is essential for long-term reliability. Finally, no restoration is complete without proving that precision has truly been restored. Testing is where restoration earns its credibility. Multi-position timing tests, power reserve evaluation, and pressure testing confirm full restoration. These final checks ensure accuracy, endurance, and environmental resilience. Only after this stage is the Rolex truly ready to return to the wrist. And that's it. The journey of a Rolex from flawless precision to mechanical failure and back to life. A broken Rolex is never just a broken watch. It's a story of endurance, patience, and incredible craftsmanship. Every tick, every rotation of the crown, every restored component reminds us that even perfection requires care. And if this discussion fascinated you, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button and join us as our next video is on the watch collection of a young Hollywood superstar, Tom Holland. You don't want to miss this one.